It is 8:11 coming up on 8:12 on this Wednesday. Good morning and welcome to the Hometown Morning Show with Tori and Kyle. In studio guest, it is Cesar from Body Shop 661. Good morning, Cesar. How are you?
How are you?
Get nice. I got to remind you, you're in here all the time.
I know, right? I got to be right up on it.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Now
good?
we can hear you.
All
okay,
right.
so on this Wednesday we have there are always questions that people email in and after you've been on the show and ask some questions, and today is no exception. So let's just get started. Let's just dive in on a couple of these questions that we've received here at this station. And the first one is why auto body shops can't do a small touch up or match paint exactly. So I guess if you've had, I'm assuming this comes, I don't know. There was no explanation with this question, but I'm assuming if you have like your door gets a little ding in it. Or chips, maybe from the weather. Who knows? A rock came up. Mm-hmm. So why can't that touch-up paint, why doesn't it match? What happens?
The thing is the paint is like little metallics, and now pearls are like little plastic balls. So if you just get a touch-up brush and you just touch it up, the color will be there, but it won't lay the same because the metallics aren't spreading out in the same, like in a layer, they're just clumping up and chunking up. So that's why when you go with a brush and you touch it up, you can always tell it doesn't match perfectly, because it needs to be sprayed at high pressure for the metallics and everything to spread out. So that's why the touch-up doesn't work. It's good to do sometimes, that way you cover, the rust, cover the metal before it gets rusted and stuff, the touch-ups. But
other than that, you recommend, so do you not recommend us doing that all the time? Or
the touch-ups, there's only so much you can do, if it's a big one, you can't really touch it up because the metallics won't lay the same. It needs to be all spread out in high pressure, and that's why we spray it with a gun.
So we bring it to you, Body Shop 661.
Yeah.
And then you can take care of that, and it will be seamless.
If we paint the whole thing, or I'll give you some tips on how to touch it up, until it gets worse, because things are expensive, so sometimes we at least clean it up and make it look pretty. Presentable.
Pretty. I like pretty.
Yeah, right?
I like pretty. Question number 2.
Yes.
What happens if you notice additional damage after the initial estimate?
Yeah, right. It happens quite often. Usually when we do the cash estimates or something.
So we're talking after. Okay, so here let's paint a scenario. So someone comes in, they just had a fender bender. They thought might be minor damage, and there's maybe something hiding.
Yes.
And you don't find it until you get into the nooks and crannies.
Yeah, until you take it apart, so you find little pieces and
So
stuff.
what happens? What do we do?
If it's going through insurance, we have to supplement it, and we have to get them to approve it, and then they cover it. Usually, as long as I have photos, I just take photos, order the parts, and get it done if it's through insurance. Mm-hmm. If it's cash, usually before, I like taking it apart and double checking everything because I hate surprises. I don't want people to come and they're expecting one price and then have another big surprise. Right. So I take it apart, check it all up, and if I find something, I call them and give them options, original, aftermarket, something like a Mickey Mouse set, depending if we're paying out of pocket.
We should be prepared for that, though.
Because, especially with bigger accidents,
Because you never know. I see that on home improvement shows all the time where they're renovating and, it's $30,000 and then they start chipping away and they find mold and then, you have to, then it's
or the pipes are rusted or something, so it happens.
So it does happen. We should always prepare ourselves, I think, for any type of repair.
Yeah, we try, but I like to keep it, especially if we're paying out of pocket, sometimes we have to save up to do those repairs. And I like to keep it as close as possible because you got to help out the people. So
you got to try. You got to try. But we have to do our part too. Our part is to not be surprised, deer in headlights, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
The last question here for you. I'm gonna assume I've never really had a problem with rust out here. Had it a lot back east. Because of snow, because of the salt and the sand. Yeah. And so it would chip away at the paint. We had rust. We had rust. It was it's very common actually back east. Rust.
Yeah, it's kind of common here because I do a lot of hot rods and stuff. So the only problem with rust, it's like cancer. So sometimes, it's growing on the backside.
So wait a minute. So rust actually does grow? Like it's not just a patch, but like if it can actually get bigger?
It grows. It spreads. it spreads around and it goes eating like the metal closer to, and the only way, the problem is sometimes with panels, you know what I mean, if it's coming through the borders, that means there's rust on the other side. So there's really not too much to do. That's why we can't really warranty it unless you have the car completely like dripped in acid or something. But we use special sealers, and they sell some liquid formula that I use that we put on all the rusty areas we see, and it turns them like black. So that's supposed to slow down the cancer,
But it can't be guaranteed because you just don't. Rust has a mind of its own. I'm hearing.
Yep, that's the thing. That's
So
the
you
thing.
can't
It's
really
very
guarantee
tricky.
it.
That's why people all over the world come to California cars because we're better here,
Right.
But you still see them. The cars are abandoned, and they have that chip, and they grow out like crazy.
So
especially
what do
with hot rods and stuff.
Okay, so when we have rust that we have to deal with, do you recommend, instead of trying to do some patchwork on it, do you recommend we just go in for a whole new fender? Just let's just start.
Well, if it's a fender, that's easy. But the problem is, if it's the quarter panel in the back, that's the whole part of the structure,
Right.
So I have a lot of old cars that we're doing. They look great on the outside,
Mm-hmm.
and then we lift the carpet, and the water sat in there, and it's all rusted,
Okay.
That's too much,
Got
Mostly
it.
what I'm talking about now, too, is like the little cracks and edges, like where they weld together. If the weld's coming in through the crack, that means it's all rusted on the inside.
Right.
So I put that formula and I drip it on there, and sometimes I drill a hole in the underside and I squirt it with like a little squirt gun or a sprayer, just to get those chemicals in there, just to like slow it down. It's supposed to cure it, but I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if it does completely. I don't trust it because rust, like I said.
It is.
It's like
it is what it
cancer,
is.
so,
It is what it is.
Yep.
Cesar from Body Shop 661. Those are the
Yes.
questions for this week. Thank you for
Awesome.
coming in.
Thank
if anyone
you.
has any kind of problem with rust, or they need the car painted, or you need what's that stuff that you put in your truck that you love
The
so
rhino
much?
lining.
The rhino
Yeah.
lining. Okay. Go to bodyshop661.com. Cesar also 212
251-2252, and you can always email me photos at Cesar, that's Cesar, like Cesar, at bodyshop661.com.
There you go. Cesar, always a pleasure. Have a great rest of your week.
Awesome.